The maddest thing about this is I can't sit here and really say, outside of the 2 goals, what Villa have done wrong. Like, they've been dominant. It's been quite easy for them. It's been consistent wave after wave of attack, where I think Man United deserve a bit of credit for defending fairly well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the centre-backs have done a good job. Outside of that, McTominay did really well for the goal.
They're horrible to watch, though.
Mate, they're absolutely garbage. I'm just not seeing anything to tell me that he's the man to take them to the level that the investment that Ten Hag has had, 400 million in less than 2 years, should be displaying. But what he is doing is he's getting them in there with a chance of, for me, handing the reins over to a real fucking manager who can then take to that level, because there is talent here. Like, we are seeing that every game. They're scoring goals. They're looking threatening. It's just the build-up play that I'm not impressed by.
Mainu's been really good today.
Yeah.
He's had some really nice touches.
But let's be honest, mate. I don't know if he's been that good. Like,
I don't think he's had the opportunities.
It's passed him by a lot.
I don't think he's had the opportunities because I don't think they've had enough of the ball.
Exactly.
But, and that's the thing where I think United fans do have to look at this and go, is this what you want? Like, do you know what I mean?
Because the thing that I always heard from the Mourinho situation, remember Mourinho got them second, took them into he won the Europa League with them, right? So
which he said it was his greatest achievement. But
and that looks good now.
That wasn't good enough apparently, because the standard of football was bad. I'm like, you think this is good? Like, I don't see it. But, no one knows the club like their own fans do. It's a fair play. They can tell me what they want. But if Mourinho wasn't good enough, why is this good enough when Mourinho was better than this, in my opinion, in terms of the achievement?
I mean, in the last 5 in all competitions, it's 4 wins and 1 draw.
There you go.
I mean, so they've had a few runs like that this season where they've looked very good. I mean, he was manager of the month, wasn't he?
Exactly. But that's not what I'm debating. Winning games, I'm not saying he can't win games. I'm saying what I'm not saying is a long-term thing clicking together. When I watch Big Ange's team, I'm like, God, when you start adding a few more players,
I know what you're saying.
Fuck me, this has got legs.
We can see
when I watch this, I'm not saying, I'm like, you got dominated. The team weren't good enough to put you to the sword, and your finishing was better than their finishing. That's like going into a punch out with a puncher, and you just happen to have the better punches that day. You're leaving too much up the chance.
Yeah.
That's not tactics dominating and all of that. And
do you know what? Back in the day, though, we would have seen like title challenging teams. And I'm not saying this team is anywhere near the title, right? But you would see title challenging teams and they wouldn't play the best. They would grind out a result and you'd go, oh, well done. That's actually really
on
good.
The one-off occasion,
there wasn't an identity of play.
Yeah. Well, week in, week out, when the only time they do get wins, that's the story of the win.
Josh is on. I don't mean no.
So
we're talking about title challenge.
The point you're trying to make is the title challenging teams in games that don't go well somehow manage a way to get lucky and grind out the result.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, in between that sporadic one scenario that you've just said there, in between it is dominant displays where they do play good football. Man United, that's it. It's that or lose.
They've won the last 4 out of the last 5. How can we? Like, I know.
Tell me them games. Tell me the games.
I know the performances haven't been amazing, but they've still won.
The 4 out of the last 5. The story that he's just told in terms of how the win comes about is relevant for every one of them wins. It's relevant for the West Ham one. It's relevant for the Wolves one. It's relevant for this game. So what I'm saying is, when the Invincible team would do it, or when Chelsea of 05 would do it, it would be sprinkled in between us beating a team 4-0 and 3-0 and being dominant and looking resolute at the back and looking like we can't concede. Man United, it's only them wins. Yeah. They're not going and beating teams 3-0, 2-0, nice comfortable wins. It's just these ones. Heart in your mouth.
They beat West Ham 3-0, didn't they?
Yeah. But what I'm saying,
I get
to that point though. They beat West Ham 3-0, and they conceded 22 shots to their 12 shots. So West Ham had almost double the shots, and that's the point I'm making is, in the long term, if this is ever going to turn into you becoming a Liverpool, Manchester City, a very serious team, that's not happening to you ever. Let alone on a one-off. Liverpool will never play West Ham and concede 22 shots and only have 12. That home or away, it'll never happen. Let alone so that happened last week. Let's look at what the shots were this week. Do you know what that is, Josh, mate?
As in for this game? For
this game, the stats are Manchester United had 5 shots less than Aston Villa. So it's a consistent basis there, with Aston Villa having double the shots on target that Manchester United did. So again, you're winning but it's not looking like I'm seeing a process that is repeatable. And in the long term, he isn't the guy to take you to the... Don't get me wrong. I think he's actually... It's turning around a little bit, and I'm like, okay, you're not actually as bad as earlier this season. You've got some of your better players back, and the match winners are coming good. Fair play. But I would definitely change Ten Hag in the summer for someone who's a more competent tactical manager than him, who was more emotionally connected to the players, because that guy clearly is not connected emotionally, and who can get the best out of them.
If they were to change, would that now be Ratcliffe's decision? Like, would he have? He would have full decision over that.
Yeah.
And where would your gut lead you?
Arguably, it'd be Brailsford's decision.
Where would your gut lead you? Do they change at the end of the season?
I've said it from the start. I think from the moment that they came in and they took over the club, I honestly do think the writing was on the wall for Ten Hag, because you know what they're going to do. Like we saw it with our owners. Owners come in, they want to completely gut the entire football club and they want to make it their own.
Yeah.
And look, there's an argument to say you do that over time, and that's what we did so poorly. And maybe they will do a sort of a more gentler transition at Man United. I think actually that's the smarter way to go. But that may not be with the manager, that might be with the playing staff. So I honestly do think they go in there and they make a change. But actually, you could see it by the end of this season. If they do make Champions League football, you could argue that Ten Hag has left them in a good place, and then they can go on and progress. I think you can say two things. I think you could say overall he did a relatively good job at United, and then left them in a good place, but he's not the right man long term. And that's kind of what we're saying generally, maybe with Poch. But
do you know what's mad? Like, I get that Klopp's won league titles at Liverpool, but in a time where in the space of 2 seasons, Liverpool finished outside the Champions League spots, and then this season they're going to finish in the Champions League spots. I get if it's expanded to 5th. If Man United finish 5th this season, Ten Hag's gone in, he's won a cup, and 2 seasons in a row he's guaranteed Champions League football. Without the context of how the games have been going, that would be a bit mad that he then gets
ultimately,
sacked.
at the end of the season, mate, it doesn't even matter how the games have gone. It honestly doesn't. It's where you finish in the league. That's all that matters.
But what is that relevant to? It's relevant to how much investment and the wages. And Manchester United are comfortably paying out an extortionate amount of money.
Ridiculous.
Some of it you're not even fucking getting the benefit of, because Sancho isn't even there and he's one of your highest paid players. So like, if there's one thing in watching that Newcastle documentary that struck me about the owners, is when they sat there in the boardroom and went, wages equals trophies. And at Manchester United, aside from the fucking League Cup, that's not what Ten Hag is doing at all. He's not even close to threatening for a fucking trophy. I mean, that Champions League run was it was the most embarrassing Champions League thing that we've ever seen from Manchester United. So again, like, is 5th bad in the without context? No, 5th isn't bad. Is 5th bad when you're having insane amounts of investment, when you've got the biggest group of players? Maybe City might have a little bit more in terms of value, but it's one of the most valuable squads in world football. Is 5th great? No, it's not. So it depends on how you look at it, in my opinion.